Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like, please.
Yep. Check out the podcast also below in the description.
This video brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka, our sponsor, number one.
Yes, they are. Number one vodka in America sponsors this podcast and this YouTube channel. Go have yourself a cocktail.
49ers beat the Lions, John, by a score of 41-33, which was a push, by the way, for the ham lock of the week. That's a separate conversation. This video is just about what happened in the game. So, what happened in the game? I feel like I was watching two different games. Actually, I felt like there were three different games. The one that was close to the beginning, the one that the Niners clearly put away, and then the one, the Jacksonville State game that broke out at the end.
Well, they were up 31-10, right? Or 38-10 at one point in time.
38-10 with 7:54 left in the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this was a blowout that got a little weird at the end. You get an onside kick that leads you to an extra 8 points. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to act like this. The score is indicative of what I watched. It definitely got weird at the end, and I think clearly the Niners defense. You know, I know the bald guy is now in New York. It didn't quite look the same, in my opinion. Just the tackles. Actually, I thought they tackled
well,
but the pressure, I'd say, was non-existent. And DBs, I mean, guys were wide open all game.
Yeah.
And I don't even know half the, beside the rookie from USC, I guess Tyrell Williams from, granted, he hasn't really played in 2 years, right, since he became a Raider.
Right.
But, I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, he was good.
Yeah. Yeah, the wide nine, John, sometimes there's some wide gaps for running the football, and I think running the football is definitely going to be a conversation that we have over the course of this next week as they get ready for Philly. It was almost 5 yards of carry for the Lions, but I'm with you. It was a blowout win. That got weird because, in part, I think one of the things that happened, Jason Verrett got hurt, emotional situation. You kind of feel like this game is entirely over. I think they probably felt like the game was over halfway through the third quarter. That's what I thought. And you let up just enough, and all of a sudden you end up in a football game where things start going right for the Lions. To me, the way that game ended, irrelevant. But there were some real things that happened. And the Niners benefited by getting a lead, and then they got the lead, and Detroit couldn't just run the football the way they were running the football early in the game. And so then it became, an offensive team that's not going to be great throwing the football, trying to throw the football when the Niners know they're throwing the football.
Yeah, I mean, you're up 31-10 at halftime. It's hard for and you're just doing whatever you want. It's hard to me for the players to stay locked in that moment. Like, it's just, you're playing clearly one of the worst teams in the league. You're dismantling them on the road week one when usually you get a team's best effort. It felt like a joke. To me, the game felt like a joke. Not from the Niners standpoint, but just they were playing a team that was on a completely different level. And by the time they go up 38-10 and we start turning the corner to the fourth quarter, like, it's hard for me to be that critical of, like, they didn't stay laser focused for the extra 15 minutes. Like, it's week one. Again, the opponent was a fucking joke. And then they weren't, because you get an onside kick like that, and then you score. It's kind of 8 points out of nowhere. Like, to me, the score, if it was 41-25, looks dramatically different than what we're looking at, right?
Yeah.
That extra touchdown, which they got off the onside kick, makes it feel, if you didn't just watch, 3 hours and however many long minutes the game was, like what we just witnessed.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
There's also, like, it's like put in the backup five, like you can in the NBA. There's no the roster on game day is 46 players. Do the math. You can't just you have 3 backup offensive linemen. So even if you wanted to yank every starting offensive line, it's not humanly possible. You would still need 2 of your starters. With DBs, once you get a couple injuries, you do not have 9 corners on game day. You usually have 4 or 5. So once you get injured to multiple guys, like, you are down to your last couple corners. Sometimes you have to, like, a safety's playing corner. That happens just in a normal situation, let alone blowout situations. There's not like a white flag you can just and then all of a sudden when it gets serious, it's just a weird spot to be in against a bad team.
Yeah, I mean, just do the math, right? 46 players, 11 on a side, a backup for each guy is 22. Now you're at 44, right? Just if you just
and 3 are a kicker, a punter, and a long snapper, right? That can't do anything,
right? So
and the other one's a backup quarterback who can't play a position.
But he did play quarterback for a second. How about the halftime report from Laura Oakman where she said, Kyle Shanahan said, I didn't expect to put Trey Lance in the game that early, but it just happened. Like, sorry, honey, I didn't expect to fall in love, but one thing leads to another, and Trey Lance ends up throwing a touchdown pass.
Yeah, I don't believe he didn't think about putting him in the game. Like, I think he knew. Because one thing was clear when they fumbled on the first play of the game, they ran the same play when they came back and they got the ball back. Like, they still ran the exact same play that they were going to run. Like, he kept his first 10 plays. He didn't let that fumble, put him on to like the next 6 or whatever. Like, he went back and they went boom, boom, bang, and drove right down the field.
Right.
And Trey came in when he was planned on coming in, I'm sure, throughout the week of practice.
Yeah, and I did think something we can talk about on the podcast, but I did wonder watching him run the ball a few times as the game went on. Not is Kyle intentionally tanking these plays, but was there some bigger picture to not doing too much, maybe giving Trey Lance an opportunity just to get out and see game speed a little bit, but also being clear, like it's okay if we don't do too much. Like, we don't necessarily need to throw the ball in these plays, just run, see if you can get something out of them.
I think that can be a little overstated, though, like not trying to do too much. I think you hear that a lot in college when you're playing a lesser opponent and then a bigger opponent. I don't think the NFL, you really think like that. Now, you might have those are the plays that you're comfortable with him running right now, but whether they were playing Seattle or one, he was probably going to play those plays or like run those plays. That's probably what Kyle feels. I have a hard time thinking that. I'm not saying that he couldn't run other plays, but like they're going to implement the plays that they feel he can comfortably run right now, not because, in 3 weeks when we're playing the Packer, I don't know if you're really thinking like that once the games start in the NFL. I think you can a little bit in college, and maybe you can the way you call plays in the second half of a game when you have a big lead, but I do think you go into a game calling plays that you think will work against that opponent so you can win.
Hey, by the way, go to upstart.com/ham right now. Upstart.com/ham. Go check it out.
Yep. Get a personal loan. Upstart.com/ham if you need some cash.
Upstart.com/ham. All right. Well, we said this would be the worst game that any team could lose week 1 in the NFL season if the Niners lost it. Like, it was the biggest must-win game in the league. And all in all, I think they did what they had to do. I did come out of it a little underwhelmed with a few elements of their team, and it has nothing to do with what happened in the fourth quarter. But, the other thing is the Eagles. Do we have a final on that Eagles game?
32-6.
Yeah, that's, some people zigged and zagged. Some people I know took Matt Ryan on their DraftKings team and paired him with Calvin Ridley because they thought no one else was going to have Matt Ryan. And that person was half right. Nobody else had Matt Ryan. But was wrong about Matt Ryan. So
he threw for 164 yards, no touchdowns, while Jalen Hurts, who was on another guy's DraftKings team until he overthought it and put Sam Darnold on the team, threw for 3 touchdowns, guy. And he also ran for 62 yards. So
that's the part
I'm no fantasy expert, but I think he's not a bad player. Now, Falcons defense stinks, but I'm not sure how great the Niners defense is. So that'll be something to keep an eye on.
At one point during the Niner game, I texted Jeff Schwartz, who I was talking to during the week, because he's like, there's just a basic rule. I'm just going to stand by it. Road favorites by more than 7.5 points. I don't mess with it. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, this is an exception to the rule. The Niners are Randy Johnson, and Jared Goff is like Larry Walker when he turned his helmet around backwards in the All-Star game and said, I can't hit you. This isn't even worth it. And I sent that text a little prematurely, as it turned out, about end of the third quarter. Like, hey, bro, you might want to rewrite your rules.
One thing to keep an eye on this week is just, Devontae and Jalen Reagor, they both can really run, had 12 catches today, 6 each.
All right.
That's 2 positions that 2 guys that can run. And I saw Jalen make a couple just big arm throws that you saw a couple times today, Goff. When it really push came to shove, you were never, ever feared him.
Right.
He made a couple plays today where you just go, he has physical talent that like Goff just lacks, right? Just keeping plays alive with his leg, pushing the ball down the field.
And we know Kyler does that too. 41 points without Brandon Ayuk, so you lived with it, but what's up with Brandon Ayuk will definitely be a story in the next hours and days that we'll talk about. All right, share this video, like this video, subscribe to this channel, more coming.